Okay, everyone. I think we'll just get started. It's just coming on 7:05 now, so I think most people are probably in. Great turnout. We've more than 70 people in here. I suppose this evening we're really just going to give you an update as to what's happening on the program. I know a lot of you would have received your payments at this stage. There's a handful that have yet to go out, but they should be with you within a week or so. So it's really just to let you know what to be expecting in the next few months. Unfortunately, we can't have meetings only through Zoom, but look, it's great. I think about a third of the people that we send out about half the people we send out the messages to are logging in, which is fantastic. If anyone has any questions or anything during the evening, if you want to put them in on the chat, there's a chat button down the bottom of your screen, or else the questions and answers, and we can address them then at the end if that's okay. The format for the evening is Stephen's just going to give a quick presentation, 20 minutes or so. One of the things we want to go through is just a method of calculating the payments and stuff. If anyone has any queries on that, we're just trying to make sure that you have an understanding as to how your payment is calculated and that kind of stuff. And then the other things is just what else is happening on the program and what to be expecting in the next few months. I just want to, if it's okay with everyone, we're just going to record the meeting because there are a few people that were keen to see a recording of it because they're unable to attend. So I presume that's okay with everyone. You're not all visible anyway to us, so I'm sure that's fine. Mary Catherine, you might be the person actually controlling that now. Oh no, I've got it here actually. Okay, so Stephen, maybe you just get started there and we'll get through it. Shouldn't be any more than 45 minutes, I'm hoping, guys. We should be out of here in 45 minutes.
Okay,
Stephen.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Paddy. Okay, folks, so Stephen O'Shea is my name. I'm the catchment officer down here in the southwest. I think I've probably spoken to a lot of you on the phone at this stage and met a lot of you. As Paddy was saying there, this is just an update meeting, so I think he's gone through most of that first slide. So we move along. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just the sporting actions, a bit of on the farmer training, the publicity side of things. Earlier on this year, we featured on Air to the Ground. Some of you might have seen it. So I think we were happy the way that went. On the research side of things, there's some ongoing research. There's a PhD student there that's doing some research on our plot scores, you know, testing if the scores that are scoring high, if there is more biodiversity on them. We're hoping there would be. And then there's other research, ongoing research there, which is called Carbon Connects, which is linked in with Limerick IT, and they're doing some tests on the ground up in the Uachtar catchment there on carbon trapping within a cutaway bog. The other thing we're going to talk a little bit about there is the scoring process, the verification process, and the payments. We had an audit there by the department just before Christmas that went reasonably well. The other thing that's happening at the moment and has been for the last while is the discussions on the next round of cap. We're involved in those discussions with the department, along with other EIPs like the Hen Harrier and the McAlickety Reeks. And I suppose the big question is how these results-based programs are going to get implemented into the next cap. So that's all very interesting. And I suppose from the farmers' point of view there, it's actually open for yourselves as well. If you are interested in submitting your thoughts on it, I think the department would definitely be very, very happy to get some views from the farmers' perspective, how they feel these results-based projects are working on the ground. So you can do that by submitting your thoughts on a document through the website or post it in. If anybody wants to do that or needs more information on it, you could just give me a shout out there and we can guide you along. One other aspect there is the publications that occurred there in 2020. There was one, we put together one document there, drainage management document, which I think is very useful for farmers and advisors. It's a guidance document. It differentiates between the different types of drains and what sorts of actions could be taken on the different types of drains. You know, certain actions that work very well on a peat drain may not work on a naturalized drain or stream that has a gravel bit substrate. So there's a lot of information there that's available on the website. Again, if you have any difficulty finding it, just give us a shout and we can email it to you or even post it out to you if necessary. The other document there that's published towards the end of last year was our annual report, which just documents what was happening in the project between June 19 and June 20. Okay, so the results-based payments then, so we currently have 457 farms. The advisor scored all them last year. It's up about 130, I think, from 2019. There was the last round of new entrants in 2020 brought it up to that figure. So there was excess of 3,000 scorecards submitted. They were all submitted on time by the end of August last year, which is great. We had a new app there which helped things along in that regard. I think that was a good success. In terms of scores, there was a slight increase in scores between 2019 and 2020. It went from 6.3 up to 6.5. Also, the whole farm scores of 1, which is good. That was a 10% increase in that area, which we were very happy with also. We spent a good bit more money in 2020, up around 1.6 million. That was a good bit up on the previous year for a variety of reasons. I suppose the main reason was the extra 120 odd participants. Also, the payment band was increased. The higher payment band was increased from 15 hectares to 30. And of course, the other factor there was a lot of commonage brought in, which increased people's payments as well. The average payment ended up around 3,500, but there was a good few farms under that and quite a few farms over that as well. And up until at this point now, we have 90% of the 2020 payments out, and the final batch is processed. It just needs to be issued by the payment needs to be issued by the department, which I believe will happen in the next week or two. So this is a couple of graphs here, just comparing plot score results between the years. So the graph on the left-hand side is the plot scores. So the 6 bars there, 3 blues, 3 greens. The blues are 2019 and the greens are 2020. So the one on the left here, which I'm pointing at, is the higher ones, the ones 8+. They're the ones that get the high payments. So there was a slight increase there, the 2020 ones, and again the middle of the road scores there between 4 and 7, and again a slight increase there for the 2020 plots. And then I suppose what we're probably more happy about then is that the lower plots that were under 4, which weren't getting a payment in 2019, that they have gone down. So there's less plots. There's more plots in the payment zone than there was in 2019. And the graph there on the right hand side is the whole farm comparisons. So again, if you look at the lower scores first, the 0.3, very few farms in that. There was a few, but your farmer really would want to be in poor condition to be issued a 0.3. The 0.6 here is the one that we're probably most happy with, because around this time last year we focused on the 0.6 farms along with the advisors and put some plans together to get farmers out of the 0.6 category up to 1. And I think any farmer really that engaged with their advisor and ourselves got out of that 0.6 whole farm score and increased their payment. So that was we were happy with that. You can see there the good whole farm scores have increased as well. The top end there, the excellent that 1.2 whole farm score, the percentage decreased there, which I presume probably more than likely was because of the new farms coming in, But just to get that 1.2, your farm really does need to be in pristine condition. But it definitely is achievable. So next slide there, how to improve and protect your payment. So aim for the top marks. The big money is up around A+, and if you're on a 1 there for the last couple of years, you really should be, just trying to figure out how to go from 1 to 1.2, which is basically a 20% bonus. And to get that 1.2, as I mentioned, it needs to be in pristine condition. So if your cattle are accessing streams or drains, pinch points, there might be only a few of them. They could be the reasons why you're not getting up to that 1.2. So if you put a bit of thought into yourself, and then have a chat with your advisor or us, and there's a possibility you might get up there to the higher bracket. Ways to protect your payment, I suppose. If there's works on the ground that's damaging habitat, you know, that's more than likely will impact on your whole farm score, or even a plot score or whole farm score. So one way to avoid that is to not get the machines in to do the work. I suppose if you are really determined and feel that it's really necessary to do some work, the most important thing would be to engage with ourselves or your advisors before proceeding, and we can lay out what the impacts are from a financial perspective, so that the worst case scenario is that you go ahead and do work, and then it comes up in the survey, and you know, you could end up with a 0.6 or something like that. So communication is the key there. The decision is yours at the end of the day, but we're there to advise, and we're happy to do so. There has been a few incidents, not too many, but 1 or 2 incidents where, you know, farmers, certain works were completed, and you know, payments went down. And I suppose we just need to bear in mind, like, that you know, the reason why we have whole farm scores and all that is to protect the freshwater pearl mussel at the end of the day, and you know, wetlands within the catchments. You know, if you think of the catchment as a whole, your farm might be only a small area in that catchment, and you might have a small wet area inside in the field, but that wet area is functioning, and it's regulating water, and it's contributing to flood prevention, and also during dry periods it's releasing water slowly. And I suppose the two threats to the freshwater pearl mussel are floods and drought. So if you're looking at your field and you have a wet there's a wet area, I suppose you just try and see the value of that from the freshwater pearl mussel perspective, but also from a payment perspective for yourself. That's just one photograph that I put up there to illustrate what I'm talking about. I suppose this is a road that was built actually before the project commenced, but it was just a road along the contour line, along the side of the hill to access a well, and there was a little drain put on the upper hill side of it, which sat there for about 2 years with no problem. But then, like, when Storm Francis came there on the 25th of August, basically all hell broke loose. That drain that you're looking at there, basically half the road is washed away. So these are things to consider if works are taking place. You know, that, you know, there mightn't be an immediate impact, but the way rain is falling these days, you know, there's the same amount of rain is falling in these catchments, but it's falling in kind of more flash nature. The rainfall is more flash floods, you know. So that's just one example. So it's just something to consider, you know, and definitely keep the lines of communication open with your advisor and ourselves. Oh yeah, this is another slide, slightly controversial slide here, I suppose. The verification process, when the scores are submitted by the advisors there, we went through, we were planning on going through 10% of the scores. We ended up going through a good most of them, because there was a few mistakes there, so it was time consuming. So in order to avoid that, we've introduced a few things. There's a couple of advisors have agreed to do one-to-one training, and you know, so we're trying to upskill them a bit more. Most of them are operating pretty well, but if scores are inflated, and you know, we have to keep changing them, it's a big you know, it's a big thing for us. So we're introducing a 10% deduction on the farmer payment if the scores that are sent to us are not accurate for what's on the ground. You might be too happy with that, and we're hoping that we won't have to implement it. It really is a kind of a deterrent, and trying to get what we're really trying to achieve here is to get a fair and accurate score for each farm. You know, so that the farmer that is providing the ecosystem services and the good environmental benefits, that he is rewarded. You know, so that's that slide in it. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to go through the payment slips. They're straightforward enough. You can see the first. That's what you'll get if you've got. Most of you probably have a payment slip at this point, except for the last batch that will have issued in the next couple of days. So this example here, this farmer's getting a nice healthy payment of 7,200. He's getting 6,000 for his private land and 1,271 for the commonage. So they're combined together. And in this, you can see down here that the advisor's fee, sorry, I'm going past there. If you're in a commonage, you can see this figure here. That's the project pays the advisor direct. So that's what that is meaning there. So this is the commonage plots. So you have 2 commonage plots here. They're scoring a 7. The amount of ground that's there, 34 hectares, and this payment calculation is working out what each plot is getting. So the first 30 hectares here is in the higher payment, and the second plot there is in the lower payment. Just minimize the screen there because it's blocking. 1 second. Okay, so so your total, basically the way the commonage works, it's the same as the private farm. It's you get a whole the full score. This particular example here, the commonage got 5,083 euros, and the farmer in question would have had a quarter share in that, so he got 25% of that commonage basically. And so that's the commonage information. For the private score, it'll be exactly the same. Private land will be exactly the same. Each plot will have a score and a parcel number, and you'll be able to work out what each. The main point about that sheet there is that you'll be able to work out what each plot is scoring for you. Okay, so the other piece of information that you're going to get with your payment sheet is management advice slip. So again, each plot will have some management advice. Each plot will have a score, and this management advice is submitted by the advisor at the time of the scoring through the app. So, for example, there, plot 4 is a grassland. It scored a 7, and what's probably bringing it down there is there's rhodo on that plot. So the advice there is remove rhododendron. And you can avail of sporting actions for that. Okay, so the next couple of slides are going to talk a bit about the sporting actions and the annual works plan. So just to recap there on 2020, around this time last year, we posted out 104 annual works plans, which consisted of 455 sporting actions. So to date, 150 of those have been completed and paid for. And I'm sure there's actually a lot more completed, but the farmer hasn't put in the claim yet. So if you have your work on the ground complete, don't be afraid to submit your claim. We can pay you. We pay every quarter. The claims can be submitted through the app. Sometimes the farmer does that themselves. Sometimes the advisors do it if they happen to be on the farm, and sometimes the team members do it. So I often I've submitted them for some farmers there when I'm out in the catchments. If you are doing it yourself, there's an online video that goes through the process. It's pretty straightforward. If you're not that savvy on the smartphone, I'm sure you have some family member or friend or neighbor that may help you out. As I mentioned there, we pay out every quarter. So the so the batch that were claimed there at the end of last year, I think, were just paid out this week. So you claim, we process them and we pay for them. That's fine. The other thing just on that before I move away from it is if you have an annual works plan that's worth 1,500 or 1,600 euros, try to put in your claim for a minimum of 300. Don't be claiming for 60 or 70 euros because it's an awful lot of administration work from our point of view. So we're kind of setting a minimum target there around the 300 mark. Obviously, if your annual works plan is lower than that, you can just claim for the lot. So the procedure there for the annual works plan, basically the advisor scores the farm, identifies some areas, has a discussion with the farmer, and they propose the supporting actions. We review them and we approve them. And then we issue the annual works plan. Once the farmer gets that, you can commence your work. And when the work is complete, you can put in your claim. So it's straightforward enough. When our approval process is happening at the moment, so we're hoping to have those plans out in March. Once sporting action has an environmental benefit, we'll more than likely approve it. this is what your annual works plan will look like. On this particular one here, you have 3 actions there. Again, it identifies which plot they're on. Each action has a unique code. The unit could be a hectare, an item, the cost, the percentage support. Some we support by 100%, others 75, 25, 50%, and then the objective of the supporting action, and then how to do the claim. It's in some cases it's a photo declaration. In some cases, if it's a training one, you just attend. Sometimes we might require a receipt. So there's no deadline to complete these actions, but I suppose it'd be in your best interest to get them done as quick as possible. So if you get an annual works plan in this March coming, which we hope to get them out, if you get going immediately and get the work done before the 1st of June, then when your advisor comes out, you'll benefit from during the scoring process from the work that's complete. This is another sheet that you'll get with your annual works plan. Most of those boxes are generic. They're just general information that they're all the same. But I suppose the purpose of putting this slide up there is just to bring your attention to this box down here, which has the red writing. So that will be unique to your works. And that's pretty important there. So if you're doing any works that's close to freshwater pearl mussel habitat, or on streams, or anything that's a little bit sensitive, there might be unique safeguards in there and guidance. In some cases, I might be on the ground myself when the work is happening. So that's the one to pay attention to there. The next couple of slides are just examples. I think if you're in your second year in the program, or you've probably seen some of these before. If it's your first year, maybe it's your first time looking at them. So that's basically a drain that was blocked up in Donegal. That photo that was done early on in the project. It would be interesting to see what it's like now. I think the photo is probably about a year old itself, so it'd be nice to go out there this summer and photograph and see how it's developing. So basically, these areas where the water is trapping should turn into active bog and trap carbon and act as an active wetland. Some livestock crossings here. This is another one that back in the Grand catchment there, just a telegraph pole with some 9x3s, a little bit of fencing there to encourage the sheep to use it. So again, bringing animals out of the drain or the water course, and yourself in these conditions, there's just everything is a mess. So that can be quite helpful and reduce the silt and sediment entering the water. Some more livestock crossings there. This is our more robust one here, which is very suitable for cattle, and it's concrete, reinforced concrete. That particular one is there for years to come. That'll be in place for the next 20 or 30 years, I would imagine. So that's a long-term investment there, with some support, financial support from ourselves. This one is up in Mayo there, the Bunderka, timber weirs. So there's a father and son in action there, and this is the final product. You can see that it's just a little, very straightforward weir that's holding up the water there. There's a V-notch where the water flows out of, and the sand and silt and sediment is trapped on the upstream side. So I was on that farm there up in Bunderka last year, and the amount of sediment on the upstream side is quite impressive. So it's it keeps it out of the river, and that's the main purpose. This final photograph here is an in-ditch wetland that a farmer agreed to put in there in down in the Blackwater catchment. So this is just after being dug out at this point. So this is the field, and that's where it is there. It's down there. That tree line there is the Blackwater River. So again, the whole idea is to trap nutrients and sediment. You're creating a pond. It doesn't look great at the moment, but we'd be hoping as the plants colonize and it greens over, that it will function as a wetland, and again contribute to all those benefits that I've mentioned already. So okay, so just a huge congratulations there to Tom Keane. He done very well last year in the Farmer from Nature Awards. He got to the final, which was no easy task. And this year we have Colm Gavin going for the Farm for Nature Awards as well. So he's the man that was putting in the timber weirs there. He's done a lot of work in his farm, so we're delighted that he's going forward. So I suppose down here in the southwest, we're going to have to pull up our socks and try and maybe have a candidate there for 2022 if anybody's up to the task. Sorry. Okay, so the plan for 2021 is in Carbon Connects is happening there in March. We're getting an update from them to see how that project is going. Annual works plans will be sent out in March, advisor training in May, farmer training in the summer, advisor and team training and field work in the summertime. And hopefully we'll be getting payments issued a bit quicker this year, just before the end of the year, hopefully. Again, just myself there, we're re-emerging back into the catchments, so we hope to see you out in the catchments there in the coming months. If you have any queries, just give me a shout there on that number. Most of you have my number at this point. So thanks very much. I think Mary Catherine there is gonna, we have some questions for you there, so I'll hand over there to Mary Catherine. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. So we just have a few quick questions just to get some feedback from you on the programme. And then we'll get to any questions that you've been putting into the chat box after that. So I'm just going to launch this feedback poll. So you should have in front of you now a series of questions. So you can just answer them, kind of go through them at your own pace, but I'm going to just go through them one by one as well. So the first question is it right that farmers are paid for producing clean water, wildlife habitats and carbon, so ecosystem services? And you can answer yes, no, or if you've no opinion on it, you can just select that option as well. The second question, do you feel like the annual payments you've received from the Pearl Mussel programme to date have been fair and accurate? And again, you've got the same three options: yes, no, no opinion. The third question, we're wondering how you feel about the service provided to you by your farm advisor. Do you feel like it's sufficient in terms of the Pearl Mussel project? The next question, question 4, would you prefer if the Pearl Mussel project team paid your advisor directly and that amount of money was deducted from your payment before you received it, instead of you having to pay the advisor? So we're wondering if that would be easier from your point of view. So we would organise an agreed fee with the advisor that would be deducted from your payment. So then the final payment that comes to you would be your money. You don't have to pay the advisor out of it, and we'd have dealt with all the kind of admin side of it there. So if you feel like that will be better. What's your opinion on the farmer payments being reduced due to poor advisor performance? So that's what Stephen was mentioning earlier about a 10% deduction in payment if the advisor scores are inaccurate. So I suppose just to say on that as well, we would hope that that would be something that wouldn't happen in general, and also that, you know, there will be a bit of forward and back between us and the advisor before any deductions were made. So it's, if there is a difference in scores and the advisor can explain that and we can see the reasoning behind it, then there wouldn't be any deduction. But it's just making sure that there's no mad increases in scores with absolutely no reason. The next question, in your opinion, does a locally led results-based programme, so programmes like the Pearl Mussel programme, work better than the GLAS type approach? So do you think programmes like the Pearl Mussel project are better than the GLAS, which is kind of more one type fits all for the whole country? Question 7, do you feel that being a participant in this programme has increased your knowledge, value and appreciation of nature and the environment? Question 8, would you like to see the Pearl Mussel programme extended to continue past 2023? Number 9, are you happy with the farmer training and the level of communication from the project team? Obviously this year we weren't able to do farmer training like we would have hoped to, but hopefully we'll be getting back on track with that when things open up again. And the final question is, would you be interested in learning how to carry out the habitat scoring on your own farm? So that's the scoring that your advisor does on an annual basis. So would you have an interest in sort of learning how that works, learning how to do it, and maybe even over time being able to submit scores for your own farm? So you can just answer them in your own time. I see about half of you have voted already, so I'll just let more of you complete it. And I don't know if Stephen or Paddy want to answer any questions in the meantime or not.
There's a question. Am I talking? Am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. There's a question here from Sean. If advisor scores the land and you score it differently, why is the farmer going to be deducted? I think we kind of addressed that. The big problem for us, I suppose, is we've spent an awful lot of time going over advisor scores this year, and at the moment we feel that there's maybe an element of carelessness or something, that they don't see any consequence of potentially not giving it the effort that it requires. It has to be an objective score. And if they're inflated for any way or underscored by that matter, it undermines the whole project. So it is something we're going to have to build into it. This isn't the way, like if we had the contract with the advisor, it'd be much easier. We'd be able to just deduct the payment from the advisor, but because we don't have any role there, it's between yourselves and the advisor. We have to think of other ways to incentivize them to kind of give it the attention. But as Mary Catherine mentioned, we definitely don't foresee this being implemented. It's more kind of hoping that the advisors will pay a bit more attention to it and give it the effort it needs. And we really don't foresee it happening that often. And it would want to be a very significant difference. And the main thing is that this year we would have got scores back from them that were a whole lot different to what they would have scored it last year, what we would have scored it, which is fine if they gave an explanation, but there were no explanations coming in as to why the score might have jumped so much. So that just takes an awful lot of time from our point of view to figure it out. It's not our first method either of, there is the ultimate sanction to the advisors that they lose their approval if they're not performing to their ability. So that's another card that we might be playing if advisors aren't up to the mark. There's another question there from someone about burning gorse. Burning gorse is definitely not recommended. It's actually one of these species that comes back much stronger after burning. It actually germinates the seed of gorse, so it can go back a whole lot stronger. It might, a lot of new seed would germinate following a burn. I think that's all the questions there. Is it? No, there's another one. Yeah, where the cow is coming to this from the farm is mainly wet peaty ground with high annual rainfall. I think that's in relation to maybe an earlier question that Aidan asked about the whole farm assessment of what constitutes a excellent score. I think the main thing in relation to that, Aidan, is that it's only if there's poaching and that in proximity or within the watercourse or within the bank itself that you wouldn't be achieving the high whole farm score there. So it's just a matter of keeping the animals away from the watercourses. Can you cut or mulch rushes? Yeah, topping of rushes we'd recommend it before anything else really. If you're intent on managing rushes, we'd suggest topping them. Should the sense that there is a bird breeding issue on that I think GLAS recommends it's after the middle of July, is it, Stephen, that they recommend topping rushes? Or before the middle of March, after the middle of July, I think.
Yeah, it's late July, mid to late July would be probably the best time. Or we cut them, maybe even cut them a couple of times a year, I suppose. Organic farmers tend to, I think they don't use any pesticides on their farm, so their method of controlling rushes is just to keep cutting them, and if they're cut regularly, they eventually weaken. It all depends where you are. So I think in the Pearl Mussel project, we don't have any problem when you're cutting them regularly. If you're in a different project where if you're in a Harrier project where rushes are a benefit to the species in question, then it's a different story. But I think if we would much prefer you to cut rushes than spray them for sure.
Yeah. Just in relation to the removal of excess gorse, I suppose it is a matter of cutting it back. We do have a supporting action for removal of gorse. don't know, Stephen, if you want to talk about that, but I think it's cutting it back and even treating it is the method.
Yeah, the gorse, yeah, burning it, like, I mean, it's not the best methodology, I suppose. If it's a small area of gorse where you can cut it by hand, and we'll pay you for that. There's also a flail mower option, which we can approve that as well, but the payment won't be as high. You know, if I suppose you could cut it, and we need to fine tune our specification here, but if you cut it and you put in a grazing regime where you can control it through grazing, that's our preferred option. If there is very strong gorse there, we will allow some herbicide use, but we'd encourage you not to. I know on our own farm there, we've certain small sections of gorse, and we cut it off regularly, and it takes 7 or 8 years to come back. Like, so if you cut it every now and again, like it shouldn't. That should be enough to control it. You know, it is the thing about rhododendron. Like, is no real benefit to anything. Like, you know, it's no benefit to farming. It's no benefit to wildlife as such. But gorse does have a wildlife benefit. You know, it is deemed as scrub, but at the same time, it does. You have to bear in mind that it's very good for nesting birds and nectar for pollination and all that. You know. So yeah, that's I'll be talking. There's a couple of people applied for that, so I'll be giving you a shout there in a couple of days about their gorse option. I see a couple of people logged in there that have applied for that option. So yeah, the other question there, Kyle, didn't answer that one? No.
Yeah, I answered that one. Yeah. Do you want to throw up the polls there, Merrick? Actually, just on the gorse, there's an interesting pilot being run by the Hen Harrier project at the moment, where they're looking at mob grazing by horses. The horses seem to be very fond of it, and they're sending in a load of horses into small plots to go at it, and I'm going to follow that up with goats. So if that's a success, we might come back to you with that. That's an option.
Can you all see the results of the poll now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. If someone could just write into the chat to confirm that you can all see it.
So I'll just quickly run through them, I guess.
Yeah.
So great, yeah, you can see them. Okay, so yeah, vast majority of you feel like it is fair that farmers are paid for ecosystem services, which is great, because obviously that's what we're trying to do through the Pearl Mussel programme. Nearly 80% of you feel like your payments from the Pearl Mussel project have been fair and accurate to date, and just under 20% don't feel like they've been fair. 80% of you are happy with the service being provided to you by your farm advisor, so the vast majority of you are, which is good news for us to hear. Okay, 45% would not prefer if the Pearl Mussel project paid the advisor directly, and a few less but very similar amount would like that, but there's not a high number going either way, so that's really interesting. Majority of you, nearly 70%, don't feel like it's fair that farmer payments are reduced due to poor advisor performance, which I think is what we were expecting. We had a meeting last night as well with farmers in the Northwest catchments, and they had the same opinion on that too. Just over 60% of you do feel like the Pearl Mussel project type approach is a better fit than the GLOS type approach, which is great in terms of trying to get more programs like this going forward. Again, nearly all of you feel like being in the program has increased your knowledge, value and appreciation of the environment, which is, again, a really positive outcome. Most of you would like to see the program continued beyond 2023. Most of you are happy with the training and level of communication from the project team, which is really good. And finally, most of you, 75%, would be interested in learning how to carry out scoring on your own farm. And just following on from that, I think there was a question about that. If farmers score, will they still need an advisor and have to pay an advisor?
Oh, that's a...
It's a question, sorry.
Oh, a question following on from that, yeah. Good question. No, the intention would be that it would be done on a trust basis, and that just like you do your tax return, you put in your tax return, and we'd probably audit a certain percentage of them. But obviously, we'd have to initially we might do it on a pilot basis, where we'd maybe ask 10 farmers to engage with us to learn the process, go out and survey their farms, and if that's successful and we find that they're capable of doing it and happy to do it, that we'd maybe roll it out wider. But it's just an idea that we have. We'd love to hit that route that farmers would score their own land, I think, to benefit everyone, and that you'd get a better understanding of what it is we're trying to get you to achieve and all that. So it's just something we're considering. And there wouldn't be an advisor involved in that aspect of it. So I do think there'll be a saving there for the farmer. That's it. I think we're happy enough to finish. What did I say? 45 minutes, is it? 44. Yeah, we're good. That's fine. I don't think we've anything else. If anyone has any more questions, we're happy to ask them, or if anyone wants to say anything, we could